Hello everybody, and welcome back to the FDLServices Healing Channel. I'm your host, Todd Dobson. Welcome back, and thank you very much for attending. Today we will talk about a personal cancer story and how that relates to a healing journey, and how a healing journey will help other major factors that happen within your life. Okay, let's get started. All right. On 6/24, I met with a new primary care physician and explained one of the many things that we covered was I had a left lymph node that was protruding for the last year and a half, and it was getting more and more or larger. It was more noticeable as it poked out of my left lymph node. I'd asked the previous primary care, and he would feel around and say, that's nothing. And that may be nothing. However, I asked her about it. She felt around, and she's like, let's send you for an ultrasound. So on 7/15, I had an ultrasound done. And it showed that my left lymph node had multiple tumors, one at 3 millimeters and multiple at 2 millimeters. The right lymph node had multiple tumors at 2 millimeters and multiple at 1 millimeter. That was just in my two lymph nodes. The ultrasound also showed numerous, too many to actually count, nodules within my thyroid. All right. So with these findings, we set myself on a journey. So as of 7/15, we understood that I had a possible lymphoma, but not yet certain if it was isolated to my throat region or had it spread throughout my body. We also did not know, was this a metastases from the colorectal cancer that was treated 4 years earlier? All right. The whirlwind of doctors, appointments, worry, concern, all began on 7/16 for me. All right. On 8/5, we had another more detailed ultrasound and a CT scan to review the colorectal cancer from 4 years back. The focus for the CT scan was to identify if the colorectal cancer remained in remission or non-existent, or was that actually coming back? And given the lymphoma, or the possibility of a lymphoma, that was necessary to understand. The more detailed ultrasound showed much greater risk with the right and left lymph nodes. However, they were able to discount the majority of the nodules within my thyroid. There was one nodule that was over 3 millimeters in size that is most concerning to them, and that one 3 millimeter sized nodule is what they wanted samples from. So they ordered a fine needle aspiration. Let me tell you, fine needle aspiration, there is nothing, I mean nothing, fine about the needles they use to jab inside your thyroid. And they're going through your neck. And just think about all of the muscles in your neck that assist you in turning your head. And those are not used to needles. Well, the beginning needle was a 22 gauge, and that was just to numb the thyroid and the nodule, which didn't numb much. And then they used larger needles to actually go into this 3 millimeter nodule to get samples. And they went in 3 different times to retrieve samples from this one nodule. It was a very painful process or procedure. And yes, the doctor was as kind as possible, but you can't move at all when the needles start to enter your neck. Moving will cause problems in the procedure up to and including, of course, you reacting and the needle causing greater damage. However, 3 different times the doctor was going in multiple times, in and out, in and out, in and out of the nodule to get samples or to get the needle where he wanted for the samples. So if you're ever in line for a fine needle aspiration of your thyroid, by all means, understand what you're getting in for. On 7/16, after so many doctor's appointments, the CT scan actually revealed that there was no colorectal cancer, that nothing was coming back, and it remains in remission, which is excellent news. It also, while it wasn't a full from the top of my head to my knee area, it did show at least stomach, abdomen, and down to my knees. So it showed a fair amount, and that also showed that within my body there wasn't any signs of the lymphatic system having cancers or tumors throughout it. But a PET CT scan was to be ordered and approved by insurance. There are many fights with the insurance company over covering the procedures from the CT scan, the PET CT scan, the fine needle aspiration, and the fact that a patient is having to fight the insurance company that they pay money to on a very regular basis in order to actually get necessary tests to identify what that person has, what's happening in their body, and what the prognosis needs to be, is just absolutely ludicrous. This is an industry that is out of control with greed. Completely, that is a personal subject matter that is highly sensitive to me, because a person paying into any insurance, homeowners, auto insurance, health insurance, should never be forced to fight the insurance companies, and unless there is a reason like fraud or potential fraud. To sit there and have to fight the insurance company to just get a CT scan, a PET CT scan, a fine needle aspiration, given what we knew, is just outlandish and horrible. During all of this, of course, I had the PET CT scan done on 8/14. And the PET CT scan actually showed no cancer either in the throat area or throughout my body, which that was a great result. But unfortunately, PET CT scans aren't the authoritative source for thyroid. So the more detailed ultrasound was still the leading results, and utilized to continue or to order for prognosis understanding with a fine needle aspiration. Of course, met with multiple oncologists, met with the oncologist from colorectal cancer. They agreed with the results of the PET CT scan and the CT scan, and of course wanted the results from a biopsy of the largest mass in the thyroid, which is from the fine needle aspiration. So that would be underway shortly after that. Fine needle aspiration was done And of course, I've already given you details of how horrible of an experience that is. The findings, and this is where a layman, a non-medical person, has troubles with that. I mean, 5 times they used 22 gauge needles and larger to numb the area, and then 3 times they went into the actual nodule itself to get samples to biopsy. And all 3 of the samples that were retrieved from the nodule, they said were inconclusive. There was too much blood. Well, to me, it's kind of like if you take a needle and you keep shoving it into a nodule or a tumor within your thyroid, of course there's going to be blood with that. And maybe someone else can explain to me why tissue samples and cell liquid samples and cells could not be obtained, and how blood dilutes that down to the point that they can't get results. And if that is the case, why do we use this as a procedure? And why don't we actually figure out a more detailed way of reading into the thyroid to understand the contents of something like a large mass like this 3 millimeter nodule in my thyroid? All of this is at a head, and I will see an ENT shortly. The ENT, I will wait to make any additional findings on what the ENT wants to do. Ultimately, we don't believe that I have cancer any longer. We do know that there's something both in my lymph nodes and within my thyroid that needs to be discovered, what it is, what's causing it. Is it all benign, or is it something that is concerning? So I will update everyone after ENT findings, and we move things forward on a physical basis. Why do I share this personal information on a healing channel that focuses on how we heal our psychological, emotional, and physical traumas and or programming? All right. I am doing so in order to give everyone an exceptional example of what starts to happen when a person focuses on healing what anchors them in a bad place. The initial findings and the possibilities support this being a trauma, all right, for anyone. When you are on a healing journey and have healed major traumas, negative programming, and or negative belief systems from your past, you stop reacting and you begin with responses that are planned, fine-tuned, and not traumatizing. I'm not saying that you won't worry or be hurt by the findings. All right, you will be. But because you have been healing yourself, there is a good chance you can prevent this from becoming another trauma that you need to deal with at a later point in time. Yes, this was distressing for me, and I am worried. Probably not as much as my best friend is worrying. At no time was this becoming a repressed or a suppressed trauma that I would need to deal with at a later point in time. This is the remarkable aspect about a healing journey and previously healing much of what fills your steamer trunks with negativity. Because I have already healed so much prior to receiving this diagnosis, I was able to comprehend this in a better way rather than just rocketing into fear. I was able to ask appropriate questions and understand more about the medical journey I found myself on. The prognosis does not sound as bad as it did in June when this began. That is because I am able to listen and respond while not reacting. This is what healing work does for a person. Consider working with someone, anyone, on what you hold within yourself. Set the intention to release all that harms and bothers you so that you may respond to anything within your future in an appropriate, thought-provoking manner rather than reacting, especially reacting out of fear. I hope this is illuminating to you. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Thank you for attending, and have a great day.